So, we've been to a dead church before. Is this a church where everyone's dead? Oh, I'm controlling you. It's a flashing skeleton that makes like static noises. He looks like my leg, and I'm still not entirely sure what my leg means, like why it's like that. The stranger activates the tape player slung to his shoulder. A crackly drawl echoes into the room. It is patient. It sounds like it should be smiling. Doolittle! Get the same name as my favorite album.
My regrets. I hope I didn't keep you waiting long. We don't see a lot of foot traffic these days. I guess you're here about the job. I'm afraid we only have one opening at the moment. Horrible business.
What's this job?
Certainly. I'll tell you everything you need to know. I've only just met you, but I feel certain there's a place for you here. I'll just take you over to meet the dispatcher, show you the trucks, get you familiarized. We can converse as we go. What is this place?
Well, it's not an old church.
No, I guess not. But still, it has a kind of reference to it. And what's that smell? Like bread? Baking bread? Please, follow me.
This is what the others are? The skeletons? Am I becoming an other? What's my deal? What's Conway's deal? I have to be careful with saying I in this game because the I keeps changing, but whenever I say I usually mean Conway, just because that was our first point of reference, but we constantly shift from him entirely.
I have to ask you to step in here a moment. This is for your safety, and adjust your outfits just a bit. There's some protective headwear on the wall back there. Please remove your shoes and eyeglasses.
We don't wear glasses.
So that won't be an issue. Well, do us a favor and put on the headwear anyway, just this way.
There's people down here and also hologram skeletons or whatever the fuck they are. Okay, it's just a hard hat. I've got the magnetizer thing. What? Sup, bro? He seems to not care. So movement-wise, I control him. Doolittle. But the magnet is me controlling a different character entirely.
More new arrivals this evening. Plenty to do. Got to relay the formula. What job are they working? I don't know that it's been settled just yet. You see, sometimes we take on newcomers already in debt to the distillery. One of the foremen will find something for them to do, chip away at their sum until it's all settled.
It's them. They're the three from the entertainment chapter. It's the parents of the woman that was leaving town and the woman that was just sort of hanging out and complaining and sitting at the counter. So this is what they're talking about. The bar owner said that he sold their debts. They all had tabs, like debts to him, because they kept not paying. And he settled things by selling their debts to the distillery itself, so to get more alcohol. Which leads to a bit of a paradox because you're getting rid of customers in order to get more supplies for customers that you now no longer have. Because when he arrived there, he had an empty business, which does not bode well for him. The only other person we know about that goes there is the person who left entirely. So that makes things uncertain about how that works out. But now we got this concern. So this is the others. The others are these skeleton hologram people that work at the Distillery. A place you can apparently sell debt to. And then they become apparently indentured servants, which is distressing. Like they're calling them the newcomers, which is all like neutral and friendly sounding, but it sounds like bad news for the people here. What is going on in this game? They've been setting this up for a while too. Maybe not a huge amount of time. That was like the chapter 2 interlude, wasn't it? Which I played in the wrong order. So that would have been what I played right before this chapter. That's what I'm doing, chipping away. That's what we're all doing. You're also indebted? Did that make him glow more? Oh yeah. That kind of pumped up the saturation on these characters. Now everyone's way more visible. Earl? The fuck? This is Earl. He used to be a beekeeper. Borrowed some used casks to store the hives, but the interest accrued more quickly than the honey. Now he works for us here in logistics. Wow, check this stuff out. It must be decades old, but it's in perfect condition. You really like old electronics. Yeah, I've got it bad. That's why I got into this business, to keep old stuff like this running. Seems like such a shame to let it fall into ruin, you know? Like the computer in the cave. Xanadu. Decades of engineering, thousands of years of mathematics and philosophy, all petrified into living stone. How could you just let that fall apart? Below for me, people. Just not sure what to make of this place. Here's the fleet. Haha. We just use these to get around internally. How big is this place? Oh, it's grown a great deal over the years. Incredible to think, really. When Mr. Bishop founded this operation, it was only about 1,800 square feet. And half of that, or more, was occupied by camouflage to keep the law out. Hiding out in the back of an old church, purifying spirits by handmade fire, a kettle, and a dream. So this started as an illegal distillery. So the trucks are just east a ways. In shipping, you can become acquainted with the dispatcher there. Give me a tap on the shoulder if you see anything that catches your eye. Always happy to show off the facility's sublime machinery. This was all under the church in the graveyard. There, now to let me move. Nope, only up there. Yeah, I can't go any further. I want to go talk to that guy if I could. No, we're pretty limited. Let's go for a drive, everyone. I just want to have a chat with this guy. Alright, well. Not that guy. The parallels are noticeable because he looks like another Conway. Is Conway's leg a physical manifestation of his debt? Everyone here is indebted and they're skeletons. Cause like he got that treatment done on his leg. But then he heard about how much he's gonna have to pay for this for it. The guy started dumping the information about what he was gonna owe on him, like while he was still recovering, when he couldn't even absorb the information. And then ever since then, his leg has been that. It's because he's in debt. Hell, he probably owes more for his leg than he's ever going to make back from this delivery. But he's still doing it. Don't let them catch you looking too closely here. Not within our purview. What's it for? Keeps us honest in the eyes of the state. Well, in the eyes of the management, anyway. We keep pretty well out of view down here. Not much chance of being spotted by the helicopter, hey? But if the law came knocking, we could say we were logging and securing our virgin spirits, we could say. Marvelous engineering, though, isn't it? Whole part of their system of how they keep things on point. Connie, how's your rat? Connie's a great lover of animals. Do you know she's adopted over a dozen pests in the as many of the last years? Of course, death comes to all things, great and small. The distillery found that the remains of her makeshift pet cemetery were trespassing on our subterranean property. Our hand was forced. In order to avoid the legal extinguishment of our easement, we were required to file a civil suit. Ever the level head, Connie agreed to a pre-court settlement to pay off her fines by working for us here. He was adopting animals, but because they eventually die, she had a cemetery. And that infringed upon the distillery's land, so now she's a fucking... Now she's been taken over by the distillery too. She's just another indentured servant. Distressing. He's so casual about it, this kind of like life-ruining occurrence where people just get absorbed into this stuff. Weird timing too, having just seen season 3 of Gretzko. Please, don't touch a thing. Very sensitive devices. We're not even allowed to run the formula through them. What's the formula? Eh? Oh, the formula. Changed our lives. Once, years ago, we were as prisoners to the intricacies of our debts here. We'd have to account for everything on paper. Compounding interest by hand, reassessing compounding interest. I bet there's people here that get paid less than their interest grows by, so they're going to be here indefinitely. Reassessing amortization and leveraging asset distributions according to the nightly merit decay. Then she stepped out of the dark caves to show us the light of the formula. She had a brilliant grasp of mathematics and a Satan-like way of speaking right through the numbers. Now we just plug our daily numbers into the formula and run it all through the adding machine. We occasionally suffer some surplus drift, but she's instructed us on all the necessary adjustments. It was devastating to see our revered mathematician go, but she was needed elsewhere. Her legacy abides. What do these computers do? Temperatures, pressures, wear, tear, acidity, supply levels, any and all attending numbers is in need of crunching, and so on. Am I boring you yet? Are you simply dying of boredom? I myself could discuss the matters past sunrise. We're trying to fix this old computer in the caves. Of course, I'm boring you. Let's move on. Seems like he's the one that wanted us to stop. He probably doesn't want to get into something kind of secret. Wants to head things off before then. How goes the mystery, Danny?
Yeah, he's an enigma. He leases an old van from the fleet for some kind of daily art project. He drives out every morning, comes back by evening smelling of repellents. Can't afford the lease in cash, so he pays us with work here. Nobody ever responds. More of these old computers. Looks like the same vintage as that stuff in the cave. How can you tell? Oh, I don't know this make or model, but you can tell. Check out these tubes. Nobody uses these anymore. I'm not sure where they'll even get replacements these days. It's rare stuff. Hey, is this like antiquing with Lysette for you? Ha. I probably sound kind of ridiculous waxing on about vacuum tubes and oscilloscopes. It's good to have a passion. Yeah, I guess it is. Someday you'll have to tell me what yours is. Oh. I'm not sure if Conway has much going on. I've met people like that, where their entire life is more or less summarized by one relationship and one job. And in Conway's case, he's on the process of losing both. And he kind of is gonna have this adrift problem where he needs to redefine his entire life. Because he put all of his time into like two things, and then just kind of continued forward through the timeline just with those two things. Feel that draft of warmth? Like a summer breeze. This is the aging warehouse. How many casks you got aging in there? I couldn't say exactly. Take a look at the inventory report later if you like. Plenty though. Of course, we only have half our aging stock in here at any given time. Most distilleries let their whiskey sit in casks through the cycle of seasons. In summer, the wood expands and the whiskey seeps in, picking up flavor. In winter, the wood contracts and squeezes the whiskey back out. Down here, there are no seasons. Each workday proceeds from the last in an unbroken chain of climate control. So we make our own seasons. Each cask alternates in a weekly cycle between cold ground upstairs and this heated warehouse. That's how it works? The actual physical barrel that the alcohol is kept in is what flavors it over time as it ages? I don't really know much about how this stuff goes, I guess. It's not lost on me that the Kentucky Route Zero is full of alcoholic hologram visuals or whatever the hell they are, street markers. And then we keep going to bars and now distilleries when our protagonist is a recovering alcoholic. Fate's being real cruel to him. He already lost his leg to death, apparently. So I guess these are like before and after? Are all of the casks coffins? The new casks look like they could be used for anything. Yeah, before they get all warped and stained. You can't really undo that, can you? No way to clean them after the aging process, I mean. It's a one-way street. I am, yeah, I'm pretty sure that aging casks are more like barrels, right? But this keeps coming up as the, whenever I'd encounter a cask as a street sign in the Zero, it always looked like a coffin, and I wasn't sure what they meant. So like cask, it's like, well, I think another word for a coffin is a casket. So the casks seem to be caskets with a nozzle coming out of them, basically, like a tap. Specifically, the version we saw in the Zero seemed to be a casket with like a sink tap, or like an outdoor hose tap sticking out of it, which is just distressing. This is a juxtaposition that is unwelcome.
So those must be the new ones. They're just fresh wood. And these are the aged ones. They're colored by the booze. And here's the first moment you can really call it bourbon, the barrel dump. We cut it here with water from the middle of the lake of Lake Lathy. Has to be right in the middle, at the deepest, coldest point. They dive with sealed jugs, and only stop to fill them once they've reached total darkness. Pageantry? Ritual? Who can say? Tradition, maybe. Maybe that's how it gets its spirit. Its flavor. I can just run all the way back here now. I thought they were stopping me from getting around before, like blocking off where I can go. I think there are invisible walls that kind of tether you to the car. This place is absolutely huge. One of the spots where trying to see everything might be difficult. It's kind of neat how he turns towards your waypoint and tries to navigate there pathfinding wise, and he'll just back up and stick to that if he needs to. Why are the caskets on fire? Lumberyard. Here's the charring yard. Vents pretty well, considering. The smell. This is why they call bourbon a comfort food. Is that why? Those are empty, right? What? Oh, of course, we don't really exhume them anymore. We tapped that source years ago. Tapped that source years ago. Oh god. I'm just now remembering that this was, I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier too, but I didn't necessarily make the connection. We are under a graveyard. So like now it's like a tradition or something, but I think the guy who ran this place originally stole graves. He would take the coffins from the local grave and he would use them to make whiskey? How do you even end up there? Looks like we have somebody down here. Another miserable person. He just sits here and watches the fires, apparently. Davy, how goes it? Watch out for Davy. He's a skilled card player. He once played a marvelously protected game of blackjack against our old floor manager, Jane. In some tiki lounge on the Echo River. His luck ran out, and he couldn't cover his losses, so she offered him a job. Fucking where the water tastes like wine. Predatory card game gambling where you make somebody into an indentured servant? Is this a legend? Is this an American legend that I don't know about, really? A game where you play cards against a predator person, and then they defeat you, and they force you into being an indentured servant in order to pay off your debt, and in the process you become a skeleton. All that you left is your bones or whatever. Because like in Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, a game I played like last year, I guess, or something at this point, I don't remember. You play a game of cards against somebody and you lose. Your opponent is played by Sting from the Police. And he's revealed to be a wolf, and suddenly you just don't have a body no more. You're just some bones, and you got a bindle over your shoulder, and you're some bones. You got to walk across the entire American countryside collecting stories for the wolf to devour or something. A little strange. A lot of similarities between that game and this game, and just like really odd subject matter mixed with like visuals and things that like aren't entirely easy to explain, but are definitely grasping at certain things, like the brick sandwich, all being like elements of folklore and history that like definitely made by somebody who has a stronger grasp on a lot of this stuff than I do, and isn't necessarily interested in explaining them in a straightforward way. We build every cask by hand right here. It's tradition, but I like to think our application of hands and hammers to the oak gives our stuff a kind of life. Well, that's what I like to think. Really, it's got that fucking free range. What's the word for handcrafted? Basically. There's a word that's often used to explain that's not like factory made or I don't know, whatever. But like, it really undermines the whole... God, it really would help if I had the right word. If I could just say the word, because every sentence I try to say is trying to use that word. Fuck it. It really undermines the feel, the quaint sort of handcraftedness of your work when it's fucking basically slave labor. Like, oh, how cute. It's like I like to add that it gives our stuff life. It's like ew. That's only that only is nice when it's like a mom and pop shop and everyone's working diligently and it's like, oh, look at everybody. They're all here because they have a dream. It's like, no, they're all here because they're slaves. Jesus Christ. I like to think the slave labor really gives it life. It's like, nah, I'd prefer factory produced stuff over slave labor, as it turns out. They look like coffins? That's tradition too, I suppose. And I'm sure it helps avert suspicion if a satellite catches us burying them upstairs. It's a fucking slave labor distillery that's wildly illegal. Like they're hiding. Like if somebody doesn't want to pay their debts to this place, I feel like they could just expose it for what it is. But I guess it's through the zero and then under a graveyard. Why are they afraid of getting caught in the graveyard? Is the graveyard not on the zero? I feel like the government probably can't track the zero very well and what's going on in it. I feel like if you're on the zero, you're probably already a secret at that point. Yeah, it occurs to me though that the reason why no one's talking was revealed at the beginning, which is that even the character we're talking to right now is just playing from a tape recorder? Like, these are all pre-recorded statements. Even the ones that are answering my questions are all somehow, like, this whole tree of already figured out dialogue options. For all I know, this person isn't even Doolittle. Like, they might not even be, they're probably not even the person whose messages, who made all these audio recordings. That's probably somebody who's from upper management or not even here, like gone at this point. And this poor person has the job of playing Doolittle's messages, and we would never know because they can't talk. The mill. It's an antique, perfectly functional. We recuperated it from a site upriver decades ago. Keeps us honest in our old world charm, if you follow. We do as much upkeep as the formula allows. You can just as much imagine Doolittle sounds like fucking Andrew Ryan or something. A man chooses, a slave obeys, and all that shit. Like you fully give it that like that tinny pre-recorded like old-timey advertisement about the dirigible and all that. Rapture. The water wheel's 20 feet up. Gives us more clearance for a big hopper. When we pulled it out of the water at the old site, the wheel just kept spinning and it hasn't stopped yet. Guess it didn't need the river to turn it after all. What? They took it out of the river and just continued? How could it be exerting friction on anything? This is like some Hanukkah shit, where the oil just kept burning. Like, well, we took the water wheel out of the water and it just kept turning and generating power, so like, I guess that's pretty good. Hey, you could make a religion about that. Or a book series. Call it the Wheel of Time. Well, to make bourbon, you'll need some water, won't you? Here's where it all comes in. The mundanity of it. Ha! Quite an impressive chorus when they all get going like this, though. What river is this? It's an artery of the Echo River. The Echo River is fed from Lake Leith, but you wouldn't recognize a drop of it. Leith is cold, dark, and so very deep, and still. Rumors of Lake Leith's supernatural properties are, I'd say, just a bit exaggerated, but I wouldn't fish on it. I wouldn't fish on it. They're exaggerated, but also don't drink the water. But it's fine. Don't touch it, though. If it gets in your skin, wash your hands for 5 minutes. But it's fine. I'm forced to think of that guy that was, like, tied to a pesticide, I think it was. And he was defending the pesticide, and he made the mistake of be like, it's perfectly harmless, it's fine. I would drink it right here. And he's like, would you? Will you drink it? Like the person interviewing them like countered them and actually called their bluff, and like you had to sit there and watch him squirm because he's like, why did I say that? It's like, why would you? Of course it's harmful. It's a fucking poison. That's its premise. Hearing people talk about poisons as being unharmful is interesting. Like I heard something about about wild boars in the United States. And there's people that wanted to try to get rid of the wild boar problem by poisoning them. There's actually an episode of this on the Reply All podcast. It was specifically the hosts of the podcast decided to look into the fact that there was like this the 30 to 50 feral hogs tweet that went viral a year ago at this point, maybe. And how it went viral in part because it seemed so completely absurd, and in many ways it was. Gold Vision probably has the best video on the feral hogs thing. If you look up Gold Vision's feral hogs video, not like a factual video, just a very funny take on just the absurdity of hearing that sentence out loud. That's a really good video. I've watched it a lot of times. But as far as the Reply All and all that and the information about the thing, it's like, turns out, yeah, there's a nightmarish amount of feral hogs in the Midwest and whatnot, just parts of this country. There's just hordes of them because they reproduce so quickly and grow so quickly. But there was these people that, like, right now, like, the feral hogs are generally hunted by just, they're often dealt with by hunting, although it's not really necessarily effective at actually hunting them. But they're hunted in great scales, apparently. But somebody was trying to poison them? And it's like, what? That's a horrible... Poisoning the feral hogs would be a terrible, terrible idea. Because, like, you're gonna poison other animals that eat the carcasses, and you're gonna poison people that if they hunt and eat the boars and whatnot. Like, it's gonna quickly cycle back and hurt a lot of other things besides the hogs if you start trying to poison them. Which led to the guy that was like the proponent of the poison making the fairly insane argument that, because like people were like, how are you gonna poison these hogs? Like they're huge. Surely if you poisoned these hogs, like the poison would be just as dangerous, or if not more so, to like people and like dogs and wildlife and whatnot. And it's like, because like if you're poison, it takes a lot of poison to kill something that's really large usually. It's like how are you gonna, surely if it's danger enough to kill, it's like when people always talk about like enough tranquilizer to take out a horse or an elephant or whatever, like that the tranquilizer it takes to kill an elephant, to take out an elephant would probably kill a person, for example. Those kinds of things, like it'd be like, it's brutal. It's just concentration versus body mass. Like how chocolate is poison for insects, but for people it's mostly just like whatever, because we're so much larger. You would need so much dosage of like chocolate or caffeine or this and that thing for it to function as the poison it's kind of meant to be, so it's harmless to people and whatnot. But like a hog by mass seems like it would take a lot of poison to kill, like, and it'd have to be pretty strong or pretty large in amount in dosage. And so like it seems like that would be then still dangerous to anyone that comes in contact with the poison and the corpse and whatnot. The guy made the kind of insane argument that hogs are of the rodent family and the poison only works on rodents. And yeah. Kind of just goes to say that, it just goes to show that people will just fucking say whatever the fuck they feel like if they are trying to sell you on the idea of a particular approach that they maybe themselves profit from, even if said thing involves trying to pretend that poison isn't poisonous. There's been a lot of iterations of this that I've seen over the years. They're just like, you're just gonna look at us in the face and tell us that this poison isn't dangerous. How do you understand that we know what this is?